Hi, I'm David Kaplan, and you're listening to the Sports Talk Live podcast. Enjoy the show. It's a Chevy Power Play. Now get over $8,600 total savings on a 2018 Chevy Silverado 1500 Crew Cab LT, plus an additional $2,500 in competitive owner cash. Go to ChevyDriveChicago.com for details and score. It wasn't pretty, but it was a come-from-behind win for the Cubs in Atlanta. It came at a price. Yu Darvish returned for the DL, then left with a leg cramp. So where's the panic meter now? 55 losses, only good enough to get the Bulls the 7th pick in the draft. Ping pong balls did not bounce in Chicago's favor last night, so was all the losing worth it? And should management be trusted to find their next star at number 7? And Bears OTA is underway, and everybody having fun. So much fun. But amidst the fun, how long will it take Mitchell Trubisky to pick up a brand new offense? And will Kyle Long be 100% healthy for training camp? And welcome in to Sports Talk Live, presented by the Chevy Silverado. I hope you had a really good day. I'm David Kaplan. Panel for today's show, he is Patrick Finley, Chicago Sun-Times, David Hall, the lead columnist, Chicago Tribune, catch him on the Score, and Hub Arkush, he is the guru of Pro Football Weekly. You hear him on the Score as well. Cubs rallied in the 9th last night, got a very important win over the Braves to start the road trip off. I thought that at bat for Addison Russell to tie the game was the biggest at bat for him so far through 8 weeks of baseball.
I think you're right this year because he needed that. He's starting to show some signs of life after kind of a sluggish start. And Zobrist again with the clutch hit. That was what the Cubs needed on a night where it could have been a lot worse coming out of it. It was bad enough to see the disappointment with the Dart and sort of the mystery surrounding the Darvish situation. To get out of there with a victory was the best possible way because it sort of changed the subject.
It really did. I thought it was great. I will tell you, there's times when I'd rather be lucky than good. I thought that he was safe at home. I thought he was safe at third.
I think you're right.
You know, you look at both replays. They didn't get overturned because it wasn't inconclusive, but even looking at the replays. But, hey, you get some of those breaks sometimes.
They got every break went their way. Throw into right field, gets the first run. The play at the plate, from what we heard after the game, was they couldn't tell if he grazed his helmet.
Right.
So they said we don't have enough to overturn, and then they used the review, so they couldn't review the play at third.
I thought there was two things. Big hit for Addison Russell, no question about it. I'm a little disturbed at this point by Javi Baez's nonchalance. I mean, that throw in the left field on that double play, that can't happen. Not if you're an all-star, which is what we're trying to make him out to be right now. Was it his 9th error this season? We're early May, and I love the kid, but that stuff's got to stop.
And I love your point about Russell. You know, sometimes entire seasons can swing with an at bat, and you saw him be passionate once he got the hit. You can kind of see him start to relax a little bit the last week or two. And if this, I mean, he's never going to be a 300 hitter. He's probably never going to be a 280 hitter. But you need to get some power out of him.
I think he's almost, you say he's relaxed, I almost think he's locked in. It's almost like, Cap, and I did the numbers as of like last Sunday, but since the Manny Machado talk has sort of percolated, he really has. You look at his numbers and his power numbers and average, he's really responded to whatever the buzz has been. It may be coincidental, but it probably isn't.
And he's still 24, and I think he can be a 280 hitter. I don't think he's a 320 hitter, but I think he can be 280 and get you 100 ribbies. He had 95 2 years ago. And David, you're absolutely right. Manny Machado, here comes Addie Russell. There seems to be a connection between the two.
It'll be fun to watch the Cubs when Baez and him are both locked in at the same time, because it seems like Baez seemed to ebb a little bit as he came on the last week or two.
All right, let's talk about Yu Darvish, because he's been a guy that has not had real heavy biting action on his slider. His changeup has been spotty. His splitty, as you see right there, last night was filthy. And David DeJesus is sitting with me, he goes, where's that guy been? That pitch was unhittable. And he's sitting at 95, 96 comfortably. He only went 4 innings. They said he had a calf cramp, and Joe Madden made the decision to pull him. But at least you saw the guy that you paid for.
You're right. I was watching this.
There's still questions.
There's still questions, Cap, because of durability, the 5th inning issue. I was watching this at the NBA draft lottery on my screen, and he looked like Yu Darvish is supposed to look.
Correct.
And the swing and misses and just the command that you hadn't seen. It was a shame that the dehydration, cramps, or whatever, there's always something. And I think once he gets past whatever this is, I think you're going to see the pitcher you're expecting.
Well, and David, I think you wrote this, 10 days ago, 11 days ago. The Cubs did him no favors by deciding to pull a Los Angeles Dodgers and, send him away for 10 days with the flu. Even if it was something that bothered him, he's got this label already that everything needs to be 100% for him to be good. And I think the team worked against him, at least in that one regard. To see him come back and look good, maybe Joe Madden looks a little smarter today, but still, they did him no favors.
Well, and the other good news is that if he in fact did have the flu, dehydration and cramps go together. I'm sure they were overloading him on fluids. They probably cut him back to get him out there on the mound. It would make sense. Rather, if they said pulled calf muscle, I'd be freaked because I've done that, and I'm not comparing myself to Yu Darvish. That can be months. Okay, if it's just a little cramping, then it doesn't bother me.
By the way,
so
our
much.
Ankin Law Sports Talk Live poll question, NBCSportsChicago.com/vote. Where's your panic level now on Yu Darvish after you watch 4 really solid innings last night with 1 run and velocity sitting comfortably 95, 96. Right now, 1.
Does that mean not much panic?
Not much panic.
Okay, so
5 is total freak out.
all right. I still think people will feel better once he gets past the 5th inning.
Agreed.
So it's not a mental thing. It's talked about now. It's even, Madden, addresses it. It's something that's there. You need to get past that.
Yep.
And I think even more than the velocity, that one splitter you showed, that hasn't been there. That's the first time we've seen that, and that's something, even if you're off velocity a little bit, you can control.
And he threw 2 sliders he struck out. I think it was Ozzie Albies and Freddie Freeman that looked like Jake Arrieta. They both almost hit those guys in the back
And those are 2 very good hitters.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we went, where's that guy been? Because we haven't seen that. We have not. We've seen velocity with no movement.
Well, and it'd be something if he was, I don't want to say fixed, but improved, because you're going to have this guy for a long time, and you need to figure out, okay, how do we get him straightened out when he comes off? And if you can learn that lesson now before the summer of his first year with you, I think that'll serve you going forward.
Maybe the 10 days off was what it took, mentally more than physically. I don't buy the entire, he was so weak, we had to put him, they could have skipped a day, 2 days. Mm-hmm. Mentally, it probably was a bigger problem, and maybe he's refreshed now.
I do think he was sick, though, because it happened really suddenly. I mean, he was pitching, and then 6 hours later he was going on the whatever.
Yeah,
7 day,
told
10
us
day.
on the radio that he was very sick in the clubhouse.
But then when Madden explains it away, he's sitting there going, well, the Dodgers manipulated the DL all last year. What's this? Like, he's the one who put them kind of in that same category.
He might have been very ill. Maybe we're not being fair at all. He was playing catch in the outfield on the day that they put him on the disabled list.
No question. And he was joking around in the locker room with guys.
So
the optics were not good.
It was bad optics. Last night were very good optics.
Joe Knowles called and said they're going to give you 2 weeks off or 10 days before your next column. Maybe it'll
a little
help.
dissatisfied lately. I can't. That 4th paragraph is a killer.
It is.
You got to get through the 5th paragraph.
I just can't get there. It's like a mental thing.
All right. Let's talk about the draft lottery. David was there last night. Of course, Mark Shanowski and our team were there covering it last night. And the Bulls were hoping that for the second time being in the lottery that they would get the ping pong balls to bounce their way like they did when they got Derrick Rose. Unfortunately, no such luck. They go backwards a spot this time. Instead of picking 6, which is where they were slotted, they will pick 7th for the second consecutive year. Last year, of course, acquiring Minnesota's pick in the Jimmy Butler trade. So I know Michael Reinsdorf, his face told it all. He was disappointed. They were hoping to hit the home run and get DeAndre Ayton or Marvin Bagley or Luka Doncic. But now they're going to have to do a good job scouting. Hub, this is where scouting has got to be all. You got to find a way to find the best player on the board.
Last year, in the 7th spot, they got a kid who we thought was a Rookie of the Year candidate until his back went haywire on him. You can find that talent. I mean, if you look at the history of these lotto picks, more don't work than do work. So it's exactly to your point. Do your homework, do your job. You can find a very special player there. It can be tougher than if you go 1, 2, 3, but the answer to that is I guess they should have stunk worse.
Maybe, but you tell that to people in Memphis. I mean, Memphis, they were 22 victories. The Suns were only 1 game worse. They dropped out of the top 3. I mean, that's a very difficult. When you rely on luck and chance to build your franchise, you're going to run into nights like last night.
Correct.
You've got to be better than that.
Got to have a better process.
You do. And so, look, I understand, the numbers and the evidence supports the top 3 players are going to be the franchise-changing players. You're not in a position to draft one of those guys. You were only had an 18% chance of being one of those teams. What do you do in life that there's an 18% chance of this happening and you're going all in? That's a huge gamble. So you've got to do other things, as you point out, the scouting, prepare, and you can get a good player there.
By the way, here's our poll question. Now we'll move from Cubs to Bulls with it. Should the Bulls have lost more? NBCSportsChicago.com/vote.
That's all Nico Miricic, it's all his fault, right? That they
won.
He got too hot.
In December.
I don't understand fans who are disappointed today. Like you said, there's an 18% chance that you're in the top 3. They fell, but they fell one spot. This is exactly more or less what we thought we were getting. And for people to be disappointed that the 1-in-5 shot didn't come through.
Here's what they're disappointed by, Patrick. Right. A year ago on draft night, and I'm not speaking for myself, I'm trying to speak of what I understand from the feedback that we've gotten. When they traded Jimmy Butler, there was an understanding that they were going to bottom out.
And when they were 3-20, everyone went, yes.
This makes sense.
We argued on this set.
Exactly. This makes sense to me. We're 3-20. We're going to get one of those 3 transcendent players. And then they got respectable. Right. And then they matured faster than people thought. And John Paxson's talking about, hey, we don't know. We're surprised as anybody that some of these guys have matured this quickly. I argued that was a good thing. Mm-hmm. I understood the argument why people thought it was a bad thing. This is the result of that. It's not a terrible situation to be in. You could get a player like Mikal Bridges and be very happy with this year's draft.
Michael Porter, if you want another back injury guy.
That would worry me, but you're right. That's that kind of guy.
Or there's another way to look at it. Maybe one of those top 3 teams wants 7 and Zach LaVine, or 7-22 and Chris Dunn or something, and you get one of those.
That's hard to do.
That's a lot.
But you're right. That's a lot. It's hard to do.
What if the phone rang? Phone rings. You're John Paxson. Hello. Yeah, it's Greg Popovich. Look, I cannot get Kawhi to come back here. He wants out. He's 26. He'll be 27 before the season starts. He says, you give me 7 and Markkanen, and you can have Kawhi Leonard. Are you doing it?
I don't think they would do that. I think the Spurs would want more, but yes, I would.
Okay, 7, 22 and Markkanen.
I would really strongly consider that. Yeah, I don't think that's a deal that they're going to.
I would not do that.
I'd be very well. You said 7, 22 and Markkanen. I don't think the Bulls would be inclined to do that deal.
Yeah, well, if the question about Kawhi is, does he need to be in a bigger market so he can get the better shoe deal? You hear all these stories. If you can get him to kind of wink and nod and say, yeah, I'll re-sign once you get here, I would give them everything that's not attached to the United Center floor for him. You're not going to win unless you have one of the best 10 players in basketball. And provided you think he's healthy, which is a giant proviso.
That's a pretty big jump, Patrick. I mean,
if you think he's healthy and if he'll stay, I'll give you all 15 guys off my roster.
Well, but even if he's healthy, he's got to take the Supermax, and you got to be willing to give it up. Mm-hmm. Because without that, you cannot give up those kind of assets for a guy who just forced his way out of San Antonio.
I don't think that's realistic. So I think if you focus on things that are, you get 7, you got 22. And, you're going to get you're going to get one really good player and one probably guy that's going to be part of your rotation. What the Bulls do from there, I don't know. I mean, I think that how good do you think Lauri Markkanen is? I wrote today, I said, last year's draft, everyone's worried about not getting in the top 3. Last year's example, Lonzo Ball went 2nd. Markkanen went 7th. Which player would you rather have long term?
Markkanen.
Okay. So
Donovan Mitchell's probably rookie of the year. Right. He went 13th.
Markelle Fultz went first.
So I almost hate making points by using the exceptions rather than the rule. I think those kind of are the exceptions. But I think when you're in the Bulls position, you can't look at it any other way. I mean, you have to do this, and you have to find the examples that, you can get good players at 7. And it doesn't mean that you're going to guarantee anything when you get in 3rd. This is a draft. It's a projection. Last night was a projection of the projection. It was sort of a silly thing to cover.
You can get Jimmy Butler at 22 or 20. What was it? 26?
30. I think.
30. Yeah. This goes back to where you came in, Dave. I mean, do your homework. Donovan Mitchell's a great example. I'd love to have him right now. He'd look really good. So I don't think. Listen, you didn't accomplish your purpose. You didn't get the number 1 overall pick. But that was intentional. You weren't bad enough. And I sat here all year long saying, and good for you, because nobody should go out there and try and lose. So now you're dealing with the reality of this is how good you are. You've got a couple kids that maybe you can start to build around and go get another
David
one.
Arkish right next to you. He believes right with you.
Guys,
we're on the same page on that.
We've had this conversation. Yeah. You know what people are paying for those tickets. You cannot charge them that money and go try and lose.
Kind of bad.
Your competition's doing it
Well, I don't care about that. I also don't. I wonder about the people who pay that money for those tickets.